Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to do a video today on all of the mods slash accessories that I've put on the 2022 KLR so far. Excuse me. I have lots of videos up with most of the individual items that I put on it. There's a few that I didn't put videos up when I did them, and I've had a couple questions on some of those, but I'll go ahead and go over what I've done here. I'll start at the front of the bike and kind of work my way back. I'll give you kind of a look at it here first. Quick look at the bike. One of the first things I'll start with is you notice the front fender doesn't have the bent down beak. And it's not as wide as a 4-lane highway. That is a 2021 KX 450 front fender. You have your 4 bolts up underneath there. Remove those. This fender, the holes line up perfect. You don't got to do any drilling or, ovaling out the holes. They line up perfect. The one thing I did do is the back 2 screws on top of the fender. I put a 1/16 inch washer between the triple clamp and the fender just to get the fender looking right, laying against the tire. I didn't want it tilted down at all, so I put the washers on there to pop it up just ever so slightly. And when you do the swap, you have 2 rivets here. What you do is you got to take a drill bit, 1/8 inch or larger drill bit, put it in the head of the rivet, drill out through them. You'll be able to pull this bracket off. And then all you have to do, I just held it up to this new fender, drilled 2 holes, and put 2 aluminum rivets in. If you didn't have rivets, you could nut and bolt it, but I put the rivets in just like the factory. So that's first mod. Second mod, Kenda Trackmaster 760 on the front. Best gripping tire I've ever used off-road. And I'm talking strict off-road and dual sport. I love those things. They have a nice wide profile, excellent grip. Okay, I also removed the reflectors, stock reflectors, unbolted those, took those off. I do have heavy duty tubes in both tires. What do we got going next? We have the Enduro Engineering skid plate, which I did do a video on that. Excellent skid plate. Protects the factory drain bolt very well. If you use this skid plate, you do not have to get a flush mount drain bolt. This protects that whole bolt. You don't have to worry about it hitting on rocks. Foot pegs. These are Amazon or eBay. These were from my 2006 KLR 650. They fit right on here. One thing I did do, there's a rubber pad down here between the foot peg mount and the frame. What I had done, I took that rubber out and I put a solid piece of steel in there, the same spacing, and rode it. It was nice because when you stand on the factory pegs with the rubber, with these pegs with the rubber, you feel like you're leaning out off the bike. They bend down because of the rubber. The steel kept them straight, but I got a lot of vibration. So what I'm running right now is I loosened these bolts out as far as I could without the peg coming off. And I took an 1/8 inch thick piece of plastic by about a 1/4 inch wide, and I put it under, it's going to be hard to see there. I put it under the rubber and it cocked the foot peg up just ever so slightly so that now when you stand on it, there is a little bit of give, but it kind of goes to level, and it's actually pretty good. And I lost some of that vibration that I was getting with the solid steel mount. Okay. Of course, the hand guards, which I have a video of, Enduro Engineering. I believe these are the Evolution series. Did have to cut the balls off because I like you could put the lever down below it or above it, or cant these or tilt these, either way. I just prefer to cut the ball off so I can have this metal bar kind of right even with my lever. Here we have the double take mirror, run those on everything. Just give them a loosen, crank. I'm sure you guys have all seen those. Put them down. They're awesome. Tusk, Chubb, fat bars from Rocky Mountain ATVMC. These are the KTM Bend. I run those on every bike I get. They're my favorite. I have the Rox risers right there, 2-inch Rox risers. And with this setup, you have no worries of cable. The cables have plenty of room. They're not binding from left to right at full lock when you turn. The one thing you do want to watch with these hand guards, now I have this hand guard routed underneath my brake line. You want to be careful with that. Make sure you either have your assembly here with the brake lever loosened enough that if you fall and that hand guard would happen to push up, this will move. If not, you'll want to flip this over, this curve, and put it on top. In case you fall down, if you hit this hand guard up and this is tightened down solid with no room to move, it's going to snap that right off right at the banjo bolt right there at your fitting. You don't want that to happen. So be aware of that. Another thing, if you notice, I have a 12-volt socket in here, which is not Kawasaki. I purchased that from Amazon. I believe it's marine grade. It's supposed to be aluminum housing right there. I think a pack of 3 of those with a wire lead, I believe, was $9.95. And you have to get the relay, which plugs in behind the plastic here, from Kawasaki, or my dealer was out of them and they said Kawasaki was back ordered, and I happen to have some relays in the box from a Yamaha Grizzly that I have, and you can see the part number right there. I think the number you're going to be concerned with is the 81950. Now, I'm not telling you to use these and you put them in and your bike burns up and goes up in a cloud of smoke, but it's in mine and it's working and it plugs right in, and it was I think $16 from Rocky Mountain, as opposed to the Kawasaki I think is $20 or $21. And this, the only thing I had to do with this, of course, you pop your little cover out. This went right in. You turn a lock nut up on the back side, which locks it in. You got your 2 wires coming off, and you have to put wire fittings. I used the little blue ones, and they just have the little tip which plugs into the Kawasaki harness in there. Now on the other side here, I did a USB port. This is also, try to get this where you can see it. All this is your factory cover, which is the block off plate. You have the big hole behind this. All I did was drill a hole through that, mount this just like the adapter. This is supposed to be waterproof and marine proof. Whether it is or not, I don't know. It's an Amazon deal. I believe this was $15. It's the same deal. You run your 2 wires off the back, and there's a plug right here behind your plastic. Now, this one you have to use very tiny flat blade plugs. They're only a little wider than 1/16 of an inch. You have to have 2 of those, so they go into the blade connector. The other side was the round connector. These are the blade connector. They're like a bullet style on that side. This side's a flat little blade connector. So keep that in mind. But that was simple to do, and both of them are a hell of a lot cheaper than buying the Kawasaki items. Okay, of course, I have a video on the tank covering here basically my scratch protection from your knees rubbing on the tank. That's just a piece of sign vinyl, and I use the knifeless tape to run around the edge and peel off and put that on there. There's a video up for that. Okay, talked about the foot pegs. Headlight is still factory on it. Windshield is factory. Nothing touched there. Oh, I do have this quad lock phone mount. I will warn you right now, if you get one of these, you have to put the anti-vibration mount on this bike. I ruined my iPhone the first time I took this bike out, and I used it without the anti-vibration mount. It literally ruined my phone. When I would put my phone on to take a picture, the whole screen would vibrate, and I did some research. It was because it couldn't take the vibration from this bike on this rail. So keep that in mind. Don't ruin your iPhone. Get the anti-vibration mount. Let's see what we got here. We got the Apache box from Harbor Freight. This I just have mounted. There are 4 existing holes in your top plate from the factory. I just made a template and marked the holes on the bottom of this, drilled them out, and used 4 1/4-inch nuts and bolts and bolted that on. Pretty simple. Okay, we have the Delcovic exhaust. That is 14-inch oval. It's only the slip-on, not a head pipe, no fuel controller. I had the quiet core in it. Now I'm back to the baffle, which is louder than the quiet core, but it does sound pretty good. Oh, excuse me. I'm kind of recovering from a cold, not COVID. Okay. Oh, and I did also, you have your air box behind here. I did not remove the snorkel, but what I did is I pulled the air box lid off, and I use these air vents on bikes. I drilled 2 holes just on the little air box cover and poked 2 of these filtered air vents in to let a little more air flow into the air box. This is the USB port that I got off of Amazon right there. It's called a Ride on Air. That's the USB port. This is how there's 2 more of my 12-volt receptacles in there. That's how they come. You get the little Luma wire here with a inline fuse, and of course you get your ports. Okay, I have a video up. I took the foot peg bracket completely off the other side, and of course on this side, for some idiotic reason, they have the master cylinder mounted to your foot peg bracket instead of being up inside the frame somewhere. So I had to actually cut the foot peg off of here. I'm never going to ever haul anybody in this bike, so I don't mind cutting that off. Cut that off, got rid of that. Another thing I did, I believe in one of my videos I was working on something. This bracket from the factory is bent way down over here, and your hose is sticking way over the edge of your swing arm. If you would fall over, I don't like it because if you fall over and hit a rock, it could bash that thing or crush it or what have you. So I bent the bracket up a little bit, and I have the hose up. It's not rubbing the tire or anything. It's out of the way. Let me skip around here. Oh, okay. Shifter. When I brought the bike home, I actually cut the original shifter and added 3/4 of an inch into it, and it worked awesome. But I got this aluminum extended shifter. This is an MGO from DennisKirk.com. This was $24, and this one is, I don't know if it's quite 3/4 of an inch long, but when I held it up to the one the stock one that I added the piece in, it was very close, maybe 1/8 of an inch shorter, but this works fine. I've ridden with hiking boots, riding boots, adventure boots. I have no problem shifting with this now with the bigger foot pegs on. Because this shifter's already close from the factory. When you put the larger foot pegs on, you definitely lose some space, but this is working good right now. I always remove the chain guard. I just don't like stuff getting up in there and stuck in there and mud and sticks and everything when I'm riding. And of course on the back, I have a D606. They're awesome tires for the bigger bikes. They tend to wear a lot longer than the Trackmaster, and I love them when the bigger bikes are a little bit stiffer knobby. They work awesome. Sprockets. You'll notice my sprocket is black. That is not factory. I went up 1 tooth on the rear. This is a whatever's 1 tooth. I can't even remember what the hell they are, but this is 1 tooth up from your stock rear sprocket, and it makes an awesome difference when you're off-road. And you have no problem cruising 70 on the highway, but it just helps you off-road. A little bit of extra lugging in. On these bikes, when you let the clutch out, first gear is so tall, it's almost like you have to ride the clutch a little bit every time you get going. That really helped with that. Now letting the clutch out isn't such like a long process. You kind of let it out and you get going and you're going. It made that a lot better and much better off-road. Same with that pipe. I don't have a fuel commander on yet, but that pipe made an incredible difference all across the power band riding this bike. I mean, that was an excellent mod right there. And the Delco, that was only $220 shipped to my house. So you can't beat that for 220 bucks. Battery, I do have a lithium battery in it. I put that in. I have a video on doing the lithium battery. Of course, I modified I couldn't stand all that junk sticking down in here on this license plate area. So, of course, I trimmed the side right here on this line that was in here, so I took that piece off. It sticks out yay far, and I whacked off this bottom piece, and you still have your original license plate lamp for the license plate, of course. Now, you don't want to do that if you live in a state where your inspection mechanic is going to not pass your bike because of the reflectors on here. Same with the ones in the front. Don't take those off if you don't think your local dealership's going to pass it for inspection. I don't seem to have any issue with that. Okay, I'm trying to see. I did not block off the emissions yet. I do get a little bit of backfire. Just as my KLX 300 was, I get a little bit of backfire on deceleration. Just a pop every now and then. So I may try disconnecting the little smog pump on the other side, the pair valve, and see if that clears it up a little bit. But I have not done that yet. Suspension wise, I did turn the preload up on the rear shock, but this suspension on this bike is much better than my 2006 KLR stock. These have like the like I think the 8 kilogram springs in them, or 0.8 kilogram springs in them, and they're actually awesome. I mean, I've been riding off-road. I'm not beating the guts out of it yet because I'm still breaking it in, but the suspension is much better than the 2006 was. So I'm liking that. I mean, I don't even think I'm going to do anything with the suspension unless I would be hauling some heavy panniers, and I've got a full load in the back, and maybe go up a slightly heavier spring on the rear. But if you get on Racetech's website and I punch in all my information for this bike, you know, I even put in expert rider. I put 205-pound weight with no gear. The bike the fuel tank size, and it actually calls for the rate of spring that comes stock on this bike, so that's pretty good. Trying to see, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, and I wanted to mention, with everything I've done to the bike thus far, I have weighed everything I've taken off and everything I have put back on, and I am actually right at, this bike right now, the way it sits, is right at about 20 pounds lighter than when it came from the factory. So, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. I mean, I think this bike is what, at like 454 with fuel. So I'm running about 434 or so with fuel, which is pretty good. I mean, it feels good off-road. Now, my bike too, of course, I have my bike set off because I want to feel comfortable off-road. If you're going to be somebody that's on the road all the time, like I would let the foot pegs alone, because you get a lot less vibration through the rubber foot pegs with the rubbers on top. The tires that are on it, I would let those alone if you're not going to be off-road much. That smooths your ride out too considerably. The big hand guards that come stock keep the wind off your hands, would keep your hands probably warmer. These will not do that. You'll keep some wind off, but as far as the stock ones have much better wind protection. So if that's the case, I mean, now if you're somebody that rides, is going to take this off-road and ride it pretty hard off-road, then you want to set up like this. And I'm going to use this bike on the road a lot, but I want to feel very comfortable on this bike when I go off-road and not have any hesitation of taking this bike anywhere off-road. And that's how I'm set up right now. And I mean, that's how I want this bike to stay. And I won't be doing too many more mods, maybe just a few little things here and there. I'm not a big crash bar person. I know they're safe and they protect your side panels, but man, do they look hideous. So I probably won't be doing that, but I don't want to say I never will. I possibly could. The one big modification I probably will do is when winter comes here in Pennsylvania, I'm probably going to pull the tank off and the side panels and paint those lime green because I cannot stand. I know there's everybody I see stops here or is at my house loves this color, but I'm not into it. Kawasaki should have one of these models with lime green on it because that's their color. Oh, I do have little decals on the swing arms. Those I measured them, had a sign shop, cut the black out, stuck the black out on, and then stuck some Kawasaki stickers on top of it. And took care of that. I think I basically covered everything. I'm not going to do anything with the windshield. The windshield is doing awesome for me at the factory setting from the factory height. I don't get any buffeting. The wind is right up over the top of my helmet. It's doing awesome. So I'm not going to touch that. Some of my other bikes like the DRZ 400, I have put seal savers on here because of these. I hate these 70s disco boots. But I don't mind them on the Cowie. They don't really stick out to me and like bother me. So I'm going to probably let those on there and not do the seal savers. One thing I do want to do, the kickstand on this bike is extremely short. Like when you go to sit the bike over, even on the concrete, it feels like the damn thing's going to fall over. And out in the woods, you really got to watch where you put this bike over and make sure you have a rock or something under that. But I'm going to look into probably cutting that and putting a piece of pipe in there, maybe 3/4 of an inch or an inch long, to get the bike to stand up farther. Other than that, I think we're pretty good. And I will be getting this bike, out and do some. It's getting broken in. I have about a little over 200 miles on it, and I want to get the first oil change in and everything, and get the doohickey adjusted, and then I'll start getting it off road and ripping it pretty good and getting some more videos up as far as that. But I'm very happy with it. As for a big heavy bike. I've had it in the woods plenty so far, and I mean, I love it in the woods. Do I want to pick it up when it falls over? No, because it's a heavy bitch. But I'm really liking it. It has good handling with these tires. I'm in the woods here by the house, and I'm riding everywhere I would ride on all the other bikes, other than ridiculous gnarly hill climbs. But all the trails, single track, standard hill climbs, it does freaking awesome on them. I do love it. And I mean, I did explain the front fender. I've had a few requests on a video for that. I may throw a video up on that, just showing it so people kind of know what they're getting into. But that will be later on. So there you go. I'm very happy with the old Big Pig back there. We'll keep you updated. I'll be riding this a lot. I got the other bikes over there still, so we'll be getting them out this year and doing some riding. Like, subscribe, get on one of your dual sports adventure bikes, get outside. I will see all you guys and gals later. See ya.